I've been told that everybody has a story to share. So I wanted to share a little bit of mine. Growing up, I always struggled to feel good enough or to feel like I was worth something in life. Most people never really understood or had any idea that I struggled with depression for a large part of my younger life, to the point where by the age of 20, I had already tried multiple times to commit suicide. The last time actually ended me up in the hospital. In the hospital, I was told that I would have actually died from that final attempt had I not been found when I was. Knowing that I actually almost succeeded took things to a different level, but it didn't take away the pain that I felt in that moment. I was asked by the doctor to either commit myself to psychiatric care or they would do it for me. Needless to say, I went ahead and committed myself. It was hard at the time because I grew up idolizing and loving my parents. My mom was my best friend. My dad was my hero. And my actions put such a huge strain on my relationship with my family, to the point where, due to my actions, we lost touch and we became estranged over time. Shortly after, as I started to try to repair the relationship that I had with my mom, I got a call one day that she was in the hospital, and I was told that she was in a coma. When I arrived at the hospital, they told me that she was brain dead and she would never come out of it. At that time, I was faced with the choice to make that decision of when and if to take her off of life support. Even though I wrestled with it, I knew that it's what she would have wanted. So I made that decision and I took her off. She wasn't off life support for very long before she stopped breathing for herself. For years after that, even though I was reassured by so many people that in fact she would have wanted this, I felt as if I was the one that took her life. She was my best friend. She was my earliest mentor. And for years, I hid in alcohol, drinking, anything I can do to numb the pain that I felt. Even though nothing worked, I did it day in and day out, just to get by. And all it did was leave me feeling more empty and more alone. Shortly after that, my son was born, and at the time it was enough to make me want to get my life together and make me want to start working towards being better. While on the surface I did those things, deep down inside, that wasn't actually the case. Deep down inside, I was still the same person. I was just better on the outside at showing somebody different. During that time, I got another call, this time that my father was in the hospital, that he may not make it. I showed up and I seen him laying there, already by this time in a coma. At the time, I had so many questions, so many things left unsaid because I hadn't seen or spoke to him in 3 years. And by that time, the last conversation we had was left in an argument. There was no time for goodbyes. There was no time for anything like that. My only comfort was to be able to hold his hand as he took his last breaths. To be there for that was the only peace that I had. I felt more alone at that point in my life than I ever have or ever had. And ironically, it wasn't shortly after that that my daughter was born. The day that my daughter was born, I looked at her and I knew on some level for the rest of my life and the rest of hers that every single relationship she ever had, that every man that she encountered, she would somehow, some way judge based off of the man that I showed her in myself. Between realizing that my son would need a father and my daughter would need an example, it made me really understand for the first time what the weight of my responsibility was. During the midst of all this time and all this turmoil in my own mind, I actually happened to meet and fall in love with the love of my life. As much as I loved her and as much happiness as she brought me, true to the person that I was at the time, I pushed her away because I felt like at some point she would realize that I wasn't the person that I pretended to be on the outside. So rather than exposing myself, I pushed her away and lost her. By this time, I had everything and I had nothing. Somehow, I had pushed away or lost the most beautiful influences in my life. But having my kids there, I knew that I needed to find a way to become the man that they deserved as a father and as a role model. So one day, I just decided that I was going to have to take responsibility for myself and take responsibility for my actions, and I was going to have to own it. I came to the realization that every single negative thing that had ever happened in my life was a product of my doing, and my choice had led me there. Oddly enough, there was a strange power in the realization that I was the cause of my own undoing. If I could destroy my life, then that meant I can rebuild my life, and I could rebuild it in the way that I wanted. It wasn't long after making those changes that I reconnected with Charlene, and we began to work on a life together. Shortly after, we found out that she had stage 4 breast cancer, and the newfound excitement and love that I had in my life, the newfound power in my life seemed to potentially be coming to an end because I had no power in this situation. It was her, as I looked in her eyes, having the strength and the power to approach this situation with nothing but strength and positivity that gave me hope to continue to be the person that I had set out to be, to work on our life together, and to go forward in strength and positivity during this time that would probably crumble most people. Despite having only a 22% chance of survival, not only did she make it out of having breast cancer and go into full remission, but we hit life running. We began to incorporate and teach all of the things that we had learned, all of the methods into our training business, into the platform that we were slowly building with our athletes and with our clients. And we began to teach the new love for life and passion that we had. During this time is when I encountered Phorm for the first time. And automatically, the first thing that drew me to them as a company was that they weren't a company. And it wasn't about supplements, and it wasn't about apparel. It wasn't about trying to make money. It was about being a good person. It was about helping people. It was about overcoming all the adversities in life that you possibly could and being a positive role model. All of the things that had taken me years to accomplish was summed up in a single movement of people that came together for the greater good of those around them in this industry. Now with the new position that I have with Self-Made Training Facility, as I attempt to grow my passion and help and mentor other trainers in this industry, the leaders of this industry, I have a platform where I get to teach them how to change their life, and in doing so to change the life of other people. That gift gives me the ability to make an impact on the industry that has given back to me so much with other people within the same companies that see things exactly the way that we see things and live our life. If there's one thing that I've learned through all of the things that I've experienced, it's that when life wears you down, when life pushes and you feel like you cannot take it anymore, when the weight of the world bears down and hurts so fucking bad that you can't take it, that's when you have to push the hardest. That's when you have to own it. That's when you have to take responsibility for your life and push forward at all costs. Because on the other side lies your true potential in life. But the choice has to be